Mr. Speaker. I've given private notice to the Honourable Prime Minister in the following terms, whether in regard to inquiries instituted by investigative authorities on the contracts awarded during COVID-19 period of 2020 for medical equipment, sanitary products and other related items, he will state if members of the high-level committee on the COVID-19 pandemic, including his good self, have been questioned in relation thereto, and B, for the benefit of the House, obtain information as to if the investigation has revealed the involvement of late Mr. SK and other persons as intermediary thereinto.
Mr. Speaker, sir, as the House is aware, the world has had to face an unprecedented health crisis following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in the death of more than 7 million persons. In regard to Mauritius, I must say that thanks to the foresight and proactive measures taken by the government, we were able to save lives and livelihood and minimize casualties. The success of our COVID-19 management strategies was acknowledged even by the World Health Organization in its September 2020 report on best practices and experience of Mauritius preparedness and response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to quote from the concluding remarks of the report, which stated as follows, and I quote, "Within less than 2 months, Mauritius moved from sporadic cases to clusters to local transmission to eventually reach the containment of COVID-19 with its whole of government and whole of society approach. The country had the combination of capacities, resources, strong political commitment and community engagement to halt the local transmission of COVID-19. Robust experience in surveillance and contact tracing and the systematic quarantining of repatriated Mauritians as well as the massive scaling up of testing were vital to this success. The relatively low prevalence of COVID-19 in the country had reduced the burden of case management from the public health system. Using its strong diplomatic ties and rallying all concerned stakeholders, Mauritius has mitigated the threat of disrupted supply chains for medical products. With a comprehensive understanding of the impact of the pandemic, of the livelihood and vulnerable populations, the government had promptly implemented several socio-economic measures to reduce financial hardship and ensure food security." Unquote. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is in the context of our response to the COVID-19 pandemic that the high-level committee was set up by Cabinet as early as January 2020 to coordinate and monitor government response to the pandemic. The high-level committee was composed, amongst others, of the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade, the Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, the Minister of Labour, Human Resources, Development and Training, the Minister of Commerce and Consumer Protection, the Minister of Health and Wellness, the representative of the World Health Organization in Mauritius, Dr. Gu, the technical advisor at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the Commissioner of Police, other senior officials and advisors of ministries and departments concerned. Other ministers and officers were co-opted as and when required. Mr. Speaker, sir, to remind, it was under the stewardship of the high-level COVID committee that many bold and decisive measures were taken, including timely implementation of quarantine measures and designation of new quarantine facilities, posting of medical and non-medical staff from the Ministry of Health and Wellness to all quarantine centers, extension of the total ban on travelers to enter the territory of Mauritius, suspension of all flights to Rodrigues so as to keep the island free from COVID-19, taking preventive measures to also protect the island of Agaliga, making of numerous and relevant legislation to deal specifically with the COVID-19 pandemic, concurrent closing of all trading premises as an additional measure to prevent the spread of the virus, maintaining strict control and monitoring at port level, including systematic checks for all cruise ship passengers entering the Mauritian territory, while applying entry restrictions that were ongoing for various countries and parts of the world. Ensure the timely procurement of medical supplies and protective equipment, targeted screening campaign for COVID-19 using rapid antigen tests, creation of a hotline 8924 for all matters related to COVID-19 and health issues, undertaking massive education and sensitization campaigns in the media on preventive and hygiene measures, including the creation of a dedicated web page and mobile app, and putting into place a home visit system for urgent cases necessitating medical intervention. Mr. Speaker, sir, as highlighted in my reply to the private notice question on 6th of April 2021, the high-level committee had been mandated by Cabinet to coordinate and monitor actions taken by ministries, departments, and other stakeholders in relation to our national response to the pandemic. Cabinet was apprised on a weekly basis on the prevailing situation and of the actions taken by the concerned institutions, and policy decisions were taken by Cabinet as appropriate. I also underscored the fact that the high-level committee, being a coordinating body, each minister forming part of the committee, was required to ensure that recommendations pertaining to his ministry and departments falling under his portfolio were documented and submitted to Cabinet for further consideration and approval. All decisions taken at the level of Cabinet were recorded and transmitted to the relevant ministries for necessary actions at their respective end. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is in the public domain that the former Independent Commission Against Corruption had initiated an inquiry into the issue of procurement of medical supplies and equipment during the COVID-19 period. As the House is also aware, following the coming into effect of the Financial Crimes Commission Act, all ongoing investigations by the defunct ICAC have been taken over by the Financial Crimes Commission. Section 161 of the Financial Crimes Commission Act provides as follows, and I quote, on confidentiality, subsection 1. The Director General, every Commissioner, every officer, every member of the Parliamentary Committee, every member of the Operations Review Committee, every member of the National Coordination Committee and every member of the Public-Private Partnership Task Force shall take the oath of confidentiality in the form set out in the second schedule. Subsection 2, no person referred to in subsection 1 shall, except in accordance with this Act or as otherwise authorized by law or directed by a court of law, A, divulge any information obtained in the discharge of his functions or exercise of his powers under this Act. B, divulge the source of such information or the identity of any informer or the maker, writer, or issuer of a report given to the Commission. And subsection 3, every person referred to in subsection 1 shall maintain the confidentiality and secrecy of any matter, document, report, and other information relating to the administration of this Act that becomes known to him or comes in his possession or under his control. Subsection 4, notwithstanding subsections 2 and 3, the Director General may disclose for the purpose of publication in the press or to a law enforcement authority such information as he considers necessary in the public interest. Subsection 5, for the purpose of an investigation in respect of an offence committed in Mauritius or abroad under this Act, or for any asset recovery investigation, the Director General may impart to any authority in Mauritius or abroad such information other than the source of the information as may appear to him to be necessary to assist the investigation. And subsection 6, any person who without lawful excuse contravenes this section shall commit an offence and shall on conviction be liable to a fine not exceeding 1 million rupees and to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years. Unquote. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am advised that by virtue of Section 161 of the Financial Crimes Commission Act, no information relating to any investigation can be divulged, and the exception for the disclosure of information provided for under Section 161, subsection 4 of the Financial Crimes Commission Act would not apply to parliamentary questions. Mr. Speaker, sir, as far as I am concerned, I can say that I have not so far been questioned by any investigating body. In that regard, to the other members of the high-level committee, I am not in a position to state whether any one of them has been questioned by the defunct ICAC or the Financial Crimes Commission. Mr. Speaker, sir, in regard to Part B of the question, I am informed by the Commissioner of Police that on 18th of October 2020, the Criminal Investigation Division of Quartier Militaire and Police of Mocha carried out an inquiry into the cause of death of Mr. SK. On 12th of November 2020, the case was referred to the Major Crime Investigation Team, being a specialized unit dealing with cases of homicide. The police inquiry is still ongoing. As regards the aspects of the police inquiry regarding procurement during COVID-19 pandemic, that part of the inquiry had been forwarded to the defunct ICAC for further investigations as it fell within its mandate, and again by virtue of Section 161 of the Financial Crimes Commission Act, no information can be disclosed. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to point out the fact that since 2015, government has taken a series of initiatives to fight fraud, corruption, and other financial crimes in all aspects of public life and restore our national values. These initiatives include the following: the enactment of a new Declaration of Assets Act, the introduction of electronic procurement system in the public sector, the implementation of the National Open Data Portal to enable citizens to freely access information on what the government is doing, the implementation of the public sector transformation strategy, the implementation of a host of measures to comply with the requirements of the Financial Action Task Force, and the enactment of the Financial Crimes Commission Act. Mr. Speaker, sir, as the House is already aware, government has also circulated a draft bill on political financing, the objective of which is precisely to introduce transparency and accountability in political finance. It is, however, a matter of regret that the opposition is once again opposing the proposed legislation. I will leave it to the population to judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could the Honourable Prime Minister inform the House whether any of the members of the high-level committee that he has made mention of, including himself, have been contacted by potential suppliers during that period referred to in the question?
Well, I'm not aware if any member has been contacted by potential suppliers. I wouldn't know.
If the Prime Minister has been contacted personally, he would be aware. If at all, not the other members, but you personally, he would be aware.
Well, if I have been contacted personally, of course I will be aware.
So the answer is yes or no?
Whether I have been contacted personally? Well, I can recall that at the level of the high-level committee on COVID-19, we had received communication from, maybe I cannot recall the exact number, but I know from several suppliers, and those communications have been referred to the ministries concerned for them to look into the content of the communication and to see whether any appropriate action that has to be taken.
Is the Honourable Prime Minister aware that Honourable Jagat Pal, Honourable Yogida Sominaden, including himself through email, have been contacted, and SK, deceased, there's a mail trail that shows that for COVID equipment, there has been contact where he is also involved with one Mr. SM? Certainly not me.
Well,
is he aware?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I cannot answer for other people. I can answer for myself. Yes, I have received a communication. I can say through email dated the 21st of April 2020 from one company. I cannot recall. Well, anyway, I have the email, and that email was communicated to my private office on the 21st of April, and my private office has forwarded that email on the 22nd of April to the Ministry of Health, because it concerned medical equipment, and I cannot say what was the outcome of this communication to the Ministry of Health. I can also say that on the 24th, yes, what I can say also is on the 24th, well, on whatever communication we had received at the level of my office had been communicated to the ministries concerned.
Does the Honourable Prime Minister know, Mr. Speaker, that this communication is from one Mr. S.M. and the company is from which he received it is from IOPL? This has been produced before the District Court of Mocha during judicial inquiry, by the way. And could he also, is he aware that his then minister, Honourable Yogida Sominaden, using his personal mail, yogida@itnet.mu, was contacted by the deceased Kisnen, and he, Yogida Sominaden, asked for details pertaining to the equipment that was being proposed?
Well, again, I cannot reply for, you know. Yeah, but you have a copy. Well, I have that copy which you are going to. Yes, I have that copy. It has been published anyway. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, maybe I can have a copy of what the Honourable Member is mentioning. Again, if I can say, with regard to communication that has been received at my office, has been forwarded to the ministries concerned. Now, it will be for the inquiry to establish what has been the outcome with regard to this communication. Now, yeah, let me, I'm having a look at this, but you ask a question you don't want me to answer and you say time is running out. What is this? You want to make a... Well, first of all, I cannot vouch myself for this document which you are producing. I cannot say whether it is in fact a communication to Mr. Yogida Sominaden. But what I can see in the mail, what does it say? It says, can I have the full and technical details of the test kits? Then I will submit same to the Ministry of Health for their comments. So don't mention only that there has been a communication from one to the other. Be of good faith and mention also what the Mr. Sominaden has been saying in the mail for onward transmission to the Ministry of Health, just as what we have done also at the level of my ministry.
The Honourable Prime Minister also confirmed that in this mail that he is holding in his hand right now that he is standing by, it is also the deceased Kisnen that is involved in the mail trail as a middleman?
Well, I don't see Mr. SK as the middleman. I see this has been kind regards Mr. SM, Procurement and Logistics Manager of IOPL International Limited. And maybe I can add to enlighten the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. I was looking at the list of suppliers that has been awarded contract for medical equipment. And I don't see anywhere, unless I need to check further, because I tried since this morning with the time that was allocated to me. I don't see IOPL anywhere having been awarded any contract whatsoever.
The issue is not about award of contract. Is it normal within his cabinet that ministers use their personal email and go and flout Directive 44, which was issued during COVID period for procurement?
Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, I can say one thing. At that time, during the pandemic, there was a situation where we required, we in fact had to purchase medical equipment, test kits and so on. And there were suppliers who were willing to supply, probably, and they were communicating with the different ministries and governments. And then they had been sending their representations, they have been making representations with regard to the products that they wanted to sell. So I think it was not only in Mauritius, all around the world it was like that. So those offers that were being made was, of course, looked into by the ministries concerned, and the proper procurement process had to be adopted.
Mr. Speaker, could the Honourable Prime Minister, if he is not aware, I mean, I'm sure he is, Directive 44, issued by the Procurement Policy Office, paragraph 2(4). It says that all proceedings relating to emergency procurement shall be recorded. Now, have those exchanges where that person, SM, refers to Dear Mr. Jagatpal, Yogida, and yourself as Dear Mr. Praveen, have they been submitted in the proceedings of the high-powered committee for the procurement process?
Well, again, if the Honourable Leader of the Opposition would have listened to me carefully, I had stated, and that was also to a reply that was put to a PNQ of the former Leader of the Opposition. The high-powered committee was not a committee to take decisions for acquisition of equipment and medication and so on. The high-powered committee was a platform, first of all, to coordinate issues with regard to COVID, and also to gather all the information, locally and internationally, in order that we would be able to strategize our action against the COVID-19 pandemic. And there were recommendations that were made, and it was, of course, left for the ministries concerned to eventually, of course, take the matter to Cabinet, and for Cabinet to take a final decision on those measures that had to be taken. So the honourable member has mentioned, you mentioned Directive 44? Yes. Well, let me read it because what is may resort to emergency? Okay. So it says to combat the spread of COVID-19 virus in Mauritius, public bodies may resort to emergency procurement to procure goods, works and other services, which has as objective to safeguard that. Yeah, but I'm looking at it. I have, what do you think? But I have to look at it. Do you think I have it in my mind? Yeah. So this directive sets the following procedures, and the items to be procured must be of use and so on and so. So, of course, the ministries that have undertaken the procurement would have had to abide by all the conditions that have been laid down by Directive 44.
The Director of Audit's report, as well as the second report to the Public Accounts Committee, published on the 10th of March 2022, states therein, at page 4, that no record was kept in respect of the choice of suppliers and the reasonableness of the prices quoted by them in breach of Directive 44 and of the Public Procurement Act. And they go on to say, in that particular report, that officers of the ministry said they only acted upon instructions received from their minister. Here, referring specifically to Honorable Yogida Sominaden, who, en passant, used his personal email address to try to act as a middleman. Can, therefore, the Honorable Prime Minister say, how does he reconcile what he's saying today with what is the Director of Audit report and the Public Accounts Committee report, second, which is the 10th of March 2022, with what he's saying today, because it doesn't make sense? He's giving a different version.
Well, I'm not giving any different version, Mr. Speaker, sir. What I'm saying is there is an inquiry which is ongoing, and it will be for the inquiry to determine any matter or anything with regard to either the legality or the regulations that are in place, so that the investigating body will have to see whether there has been any omission or not, and by whom also.
4 years have passed, Honourable Mr. Speaker, sir. The Honourable Prime Minister can tell us. 4 years, long years have passed, and we are at the eve of general elections. Will the Prime Minister therefore tell us why is it that they are so slow to act when it comes to reports of maldone, corruption, malpractice by members of his government, but so fast pour dégainer when it comes to members of the opposition and those who oppose him?
Totally unacceptable, and of course, I reject these comments of the leader of the opposition. The investigative bodies are doing and carrying out their investigation. Of course, there are certain cases that takes time. For example, the case, well, he's talking about corruption. How dare he talks about corruption when his leader has been caught with a coffer of 230 million rupees, $3 million coming from a foreign bank. And he dares talk about corruption, and he's going to give us lesson about corruption. Enfin, Monsieur le Président, I think they have to look at themselves first of all. And we'll see later on what will come out also. But there is an investigation. As I say, it will be for the FCC and for police, of course, to continue with the investigation. And we all want, ultimately, if there is anyone who has gone against the law, but that person or whoever will be taken to task.
Time over.